In fact, Rahul Malhotra of Bernstein is now joining me on the show. Rahul, thanks very much for your time. Now, of course, the results are slated to lined up, but we are having this chat after a while. A lot of transactions have also happened in the in geo business, geo platforms to be specific. Before we come to what kind of expectations you have for the results, that end of the business, what are you analyzing? Because you understand big tech, TMT very closely. What did you make of the slew of investments? In fact, even after they said their stake sale spree is over, another one poured in.
Sure, Ajay. I think it's a clear view of the large, digital and e-commerce opportunity in India. And considering, Reliance has the fairly strong retail footprint, the launch of JioMart, which is started, I think it gives them a fairly strong competitive positioning to become a largest e-commerce player in India. So I think the investors look at this from an opportunity to play in that in a very strong e-commerce market, is expected to reach close to 100 billion plus in the next 5 years. And particularly in categories like grocery, where Reliance can run a inventory-led model with Reliance retail stores, pretty much a deep presence of Reliance retail stores. That gives them fairly strong ability to build a very strong e-commerce business in grocery, where penetration is sub 1%. So I think if you look at various categories and the market opportunity there, starting with the grocery category and then extending into other categories like electronics and lifestyle and apparel, I think the size of the market and the potential market share that's possible, and the tendency in global markets for the largest player to dominate market share. When we looked at Amazon in the US with 40% market share, Alibaba in China with close to 60% market share. The market structure would evolve in a manner where the largest player takes fair disproportionate share of the market. I think that clearly is something where, from an investment thesis, from a lot of private equity players look at it. Even strategics are looking at it in a positive way for the opportunity being that large and the market share opportunity being that big.
Right, Rahul. Is as far as the valuation of platforms is concerned, they have the company has spoken about around 4.9 lakh crore, 5.1 the enterprise value thereabouts. What kind of valuation upside do you see in the platform business, say in the next 3 to 5 year period, assuming that's the kind of time horizon these big investors are also looking for any material returns to come in, or how the business plan takes shape in the next 3 to 5 year plus kind of horizon? What are your thoughts on valuations?
Sure, I think so. Ajay, I think from the geo platforms perspective, the telecom business obviously is the core of the platform business today, and one can expect that the market share for geo continues to expand, and they reach a 500 million user base fairly quickly. And then potentially the ARPUs, which are considerably low today, will obviously expand in a market as consumers kind of take more digital, use more digital applications and others. So I think from our perspective, in the next 3 to 4 years, one can clearly look at doubling of valuations from here, and that's probably the underwriting case for a lot of these private equities of a 2x kind of a return. And that's possible from geo platforms, becoming the geo mobile business becoming a large part of that value prop. Also the home broadband business, which is scaling well. And then the additional value that will come from the JioMart side, which is part of retail and as well as part of geo platforms, but also this other apps that they're the education apps, some of the other apps that they're building on. So I think, clearly from our perspective, next 3 to 4 years, you can see doubling of valuations for geo platforms.
In fact, Deven Choksi is also joining us now to help us understand what to expect from Reliance's different ends of the business. Let's talk about the one which has been under the pressure most, Deven. And you have actually seen when petrochem and refining was taking off, just where retail and geo platforms is right now. How do you see the refining and petchem end of the business perform this quarter, Deven, and what's the outlook?
Good afternoon, Ajay. Well, on one side, definitely I think one is expecting that the refinery would have, on an average, performed, I think, 60% in the month of first 1.5 months of lockdown, that is April and May. And from post May and June month, I think it has almost reached, I think, to the normal level. So, in a way, I think you can say that I think average operations of the refinery could be somewhere anywhere in around 75 to 80% region. That is, one would be the argument, I think, as far as refinery operations are concerned. On the petrochemical and the polymer segment of the business, once again, I think the expectation is that I think in this particular quarter, it should be anywhere in the vicinity of around 65 to 70% kind of an operation that they would have achieved. Well, closer to June, I think they would have achieved, I think, a greater higher capacities than I think earlier part of the lockdown, I think on a lower capacity. So honestly, yes, I do agree that I think this is a quarter in which you cannot be comparably, I think, look at this company because of, I think, the disruptions which have happened. But in my viewpoint, I think as we process, I think, the balance part of the year, I would rather like to believe that I think the company would, from the O2C business, I think achieve the almost closer to the normal performance. And probably, I think, if not major growth, but I think a minor growth, I think that will be there. But the key important aspect, I think, as far as I think the business is concerned, would be the geo platform, because they have got about 9 different verticals, and out of which I think 8 of them are expected to be operating by the end of this financial year. And I think from that perspective, to look at it, I think the transaction revenue and the subscription revenue, which basically I think is a revenue model for this platform, is expected to, I think, start contributing into different other verticals where they have not been able to contribute except mobility. I think in other verticals, I think they would start contributing to that. So I would rather think that I think from a pure ARPU play, I think you will probably now start looking at this company more from the point of view of, I think, how much they are earning out of transaction revenue and the subscription revenue in this financial year. Of course, I think in this quarter, ARPU would be meaningful. And if you look at Bharti's number of yesterday, probably I think one could argue that I think they would have significantly jumped ARPU as far as I think Reliance Jio is concerned in this particular quarter. So I wouldn't be surprised, I think, if they would be reporting around 140 rupee kind of an ARPU in this particular quarter.
Deven, stay with us. Rahul, what kind of performance numbers are you watching out for as far as Jio is concerned in terms of EBITDA, ARPU, etc.?
I think we are expecting a fairly strong ARPU expansion, around 7 to 8% sequential from last quarter. I think from an ARPU perspective, we expect, at least a 140 rupees plus kind of an ARPU this quarter. And also from a subscriber base perspective, I think last quarter they reported around 385 million. We expect, 3 to 4% increase on the subscriber base, and they're crossing a 400 million subscriber base this quarter. So I think between all these three, big segments, clearly Jio will perform the best, both from a growth perspective, subscriber addition, and from an ARPU perspective. So I think that'll definitely have a strong performance.
One last word on valuations of Reliance overall now with the kind of rally. What kind of performance will trigger further rally from here?
So I think if one wants to look at, I think, the new elements, I think, for the rally to come in, let us break it up, I think, the entire subject into a couple of quarters that are coming up from here onwards. My understanding is that September to December quarter, they would be significantly monetizing the retail franchises. the new company which is Reliance Retail, which is offshoot of Reliance. I think that will be probably monetized. And wouldn't be surprised, I think, if they would have collected basically close to about a lakh of crore of rupees, I think, by way of selling the stake into Reliance Retail. And somewhere in the January to March quarter, the pending transaction with Saudi Aramco is expected to materialize, I think, which could be anywhere between 125 to 145, 1,45,000 kind of crore kind of an amount. So overall, I think this financial year 2021 appears to be the financial year in which I think three different verticals are basically being established, and each of them are being funded on their own with this kind of a monetization process. In my viewpoint, I think if one looks at Reliance Jio platform and probably look at possibility of the valuation going forward, there are two distinct aspects to this particular platform. Of course, I think there are 8 or 9 verticals, but I think within that the revenue model is transaction and subscription revenue model. But on the top of it, I think one important element which will be definitely commanding larger focus, and that would be the investment that these particular platforms have made in different private equity companies. I think these are the startups. And these are the startups which are strategically invested, of course, to give benefit to different platforms like agri, education, healthcare, e-commerce, etc. But more importantly, they would be bringing this valuation, or they will be growing this valuation over a period of time. So somewhere, I think, closer to the SoftBank kind of a model is going to be emerging out of this. And this would be an interesting play when it comes to looking at the company from the investment and the valuation perspective. Of course, I think there are too many of the startup investments that they have done. So obviously, I think all of them cannot materialize at one go. But certainly, you would find, I think, this particular model emerging stronger as far as the valuation argument is concerned, particularly for the Jio platform.
Right. All right, Devin, Rahul, both of you, thank you so much for